Welcome to the Mind Madame podcast, where we are here to talk about nervous systems, attachment, sex, trauma, and all of the patterns that are quietly ruining your life. It's going to be honest, direct. There is no guru voice. There is no therapizing, just brutal self-awareness with a touch of dark humor, because healing can be fun. This space is going to be mostly for men. If you're a woman, you are welcome too, as long as you appreciate directness. Some of these episodes are going to be solo, some of them with guests, but all of them are designed to challenge the way that you look at yourself and help you progress. So let's get into it. Hey, I am your host, Elizabeth. Welcome back. And this podcast, this episode is going to be a little different because in true me fashion, I just got too excited to drop the first two episodes that I kind of skipped a step, and it's kind of an important step. And that is letting you know who you're even listening to, which in today's content world of hot takes and half-formed opinions flying around on, I know you've seen them on TikTok, Threads, Instagram, I feel like discernment and context really matter, especially in today when everyone can have a megaphone. So today you're getting a bit more of me. Surprise. Not to make it about me. That's not the point of this. Personally, I would rather talk about anything else but myself. But someone decided to do a podcast and I'd like to fire her. Just kidding. But we're here today because I have lived through some shit and I have lived through quite a large amount of shit in my lifetime, and a lot of it has been compiled in a very small amount of time. And my hope here is that maybe by me sharing my stories, it will help you feel a little bit less alone in yours, because I don't care who you are. If you're a human on this earth, you do not make it out of here without some sort of struggle or hardship. That is just a part of life. There's ebbs and flows. And mine, I like to have fun with. I like to have a bit of dark humor. So bear with me because my trauma seemed to, kind of begin with a casual game, or what I like to call trauma bingo, where the universe, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in, if you believe in something, I don't care either way. But it decided for me that I needed a well-rounded origin story to be able to relate and help all of you. I wish I could have gained that knowledge in a book, but no, I had to gain it in real life. And so we're going to get to my trauma rap sheet. Full disclosure, this is not all of it. Some will have to be shared at a later date because some is still being processed behind the scenes. And, we do need to use our discernment, what can be shared and what cannot. So I'm going to do my best to bring my brutal honesty of what I do have. So follow along. Maybe you could see how much we have in common in your game of trauma bingo that you never wanted to play, but now you're probably interested. So we're going to start off with this one. And that is what many of us millennials have encountered. And that is emotional needs missed as a child, partly because of lack of knowledge at the time. Sadly, no, I'm not 18. Maybe I'd like to look 18, but that's cool. It's for another day. But back then, if you're a millennial, our parents did not have the knowledge. They didn't have the tools that are around today. We didn't talk about attachment styles. We didn't talk about boundaries per se. It was a different kind of parenting. And so sometimes there is fault when people do it on purpose. And sometimes there's just simply cause and effect. And in my case, it was cause and effect. But for me, I was just a more sensitive child. I was too much. I didn't have diagnosed ADHD, which I will be coming to next. But when you inadvertently feel like you're responsible for the emotions of everyone else around you, and that can become a heavy burden that you will take throughout life. That's how you become a people pleaser, a fixer. All of patterns, a lot of them start with that. And so that was the first, part of my life and through my life. And then at 37, I got a late in life ADHD diagnosis. And that came after years of wondering what was wrong with me, because I could navigate the entire emotional terrain of a room. I could read people. I could, deep dive a topic I was interested in and, be a specialist in it a day later. I could not close the cupboard to save my soul. In fact, still when I cook, it is a struggle. You will look around the kitchen and all of the cupboards will be open. But also, in that boredom, I only want to do the things that I'm curious about. It takes a lot of work to make me finish something. Those hardships are still around, but knowing that I had ADHD gave me kind of like a relief. It gave me a reason as to why I was the way that I was. It wasn't that I was broken. I just acted and operated a different way. So instead of hiding behind that label, I took that label and I ran with it. And I said, okay, well, if this is what I have, if this is what I go through, then what are the workarounds? What are the gifts in this? What does this really mean? And so I had to kind of like take off all the projections because some people will say, oh my God, I'm so sorry you have ADHD. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm a great time. I love being neurospicy. Now, I do think that we need all types of people. I don't think you could run a world on neurospicy people. We'd have a lot of fun, but not get a lot done. But we need all types of people. It doesn't mean one is good or bad. It just means, we each have our different skill sets. And unfortunately, with my ADHD diagnosis, the one regret I did have is that my mom, who I lost to cancer, was never around to hear that and to understand why I acted the way I did when I was a child. And that probably was my hardest grief point because that brings me to my next trauma point, which is I lost my mom. It's 8 years now. I lost her to ovarian cancer. Now, she battled that cancer 4 times. She should not have made it past that first time. But each time, she just set an uncomfortably high standard of, I would say, perseverance and stoicism, almost to a fault, where, you know, I don't think I saw her cry maybe twice in the end. And that was because she was just doing her hardest to be so strong for everyone else. And I do wish that I had the capacity to understand that burden back then, that I could have helped with that. But unfortunately, I did not. And, we were there. She had it over 7 years. She had the best attitude I'd ever seen. And she had a great quality of life. Unfortunately, at the end, with ovarian cancer, it's like that's usually what you're going to go from. And so we knew when the end was the end. And we were okay that she didn't want to do any more treatment because quality of life was so important. And to see someone's last breath, which my family and I were around for, is just like a very weird cathartic moment filled with pretty much every emotion you could think of at the time, from relief that they're out of pain to this really weird feeling of being untethered that, you're not supposed to, like, you lose your parent, but you're not always supposed to lose them young if you're lucky enough to have one. And if you are part of the Dead Parents Club, that's what we call it. If you know, you know, it is a weird feeling because no matter what age they leave you at, you will always have to grieve parts of your life where you didn't get to ask them the question that you wanted, or you didn't get the closure that you needed. And that's if you even had a somewhat decent relationship with your parents. And so that can bring just this very weird kind of lost feeling for a little bit while you are learning your new path in life and how to navigate without this like staple of a person who was always there. And in that, some of the things I had to navigate were like my dad having a very significant stroke in COVID. And this was at a time where I no longer had my mom to lean on for that. Um, he was in the hospital. He couldn't go and talk to him. And this was a very able-bodied man. And all of a sudden, like, he had some extreme effects from that. Now he is on the mend now after a lot of recovery and years, but that was hard to watch and navigate. I've already lost one parent. I didn't want to lose another. And so just as an adult, it's kind of weird. You just realize, no adults really just have their shit together because we all have this stuff going on behind the scenes. And he did get remarried, thankfully, to a great woman. And my relationship with her is good now. In the beginning, it was hard because here is this new woman and I knew my mom was okay with my dad dating, but here's this new woman coming into my family. Now we work together and we are good to go, but that was something that I had to grieve and get used to this new normal of life. And in all of this, I was running businesses because I used to be a cosmetic tattoo artist, that's a stressful job. If you want to tattoo someone's face, like who in their right mind did that? Someone with ADHD, that's who would do it. But I was just trying to stay afloat, especially in COVID. My business got hit hard just because, having to shut down. And I pretended like I had it all together when really I really did not. And in that time too, I did get married. I had a baby who she's 6 now, and she changed my entire world because one, it was becoming a mom without a mom, and that was a very weird feeling. But now I had to now I had the responsibility of someone to heal for, someone who fully relied on me. And if I didn't heal, what kind of experience was I going to give her? And so I did my best. And that's when I really started working on myself so that I could give her a healthy parent. And most recently, on my shitstorm is navigating now the complexities of separation and divorce, which is essentially grief on steroids. So I guess, yeah, the origin story really did make me well rounded. I'm an overachiever, clearly. But with divorce and separation, I mean, you see new sides to people, you see new sides to yourself. You have to learn a different way of living. There is that grief, that guilt that comes with your family breaking up. But there's also this relief that maybe this has to happen so that like, maybe everyone's life will be better. Maybe we are just not meant to be connected and be together, but we can, still co-parent. And it may seem like a lot, but all of that gave me something. Actually, it gave me quite a bit, but part of that was the ability to read the room with scary precision and to see what is not being said, why it's not being said, what is being said, to hear the tone, catch the flicker in someone's voice, track the pattern behind the silence. My brain basically, and I think part of it, like biology, I just was born this way, but my brain became an algorithm for people reading, but on steroids because of the amount of trauma. When your emotions have been weaponized against you, when you've been the one holding space for everyone else while quietly like drowning in your own stuff, you kind of gain this different type of awareness, a sharper lens, and eventually a deeper appreciation for your own self and what you had to go through. And so even in the last 6 months, it's like been peeling off layer after layer. I mean, how many more layers can there be, really? But I had to stop people pleasing. I stopped proving that I just deserved a spot or was worth something. I started advocating for my needs. I started stripping off this armor I wore as protection and began, leading with something even stronger, which I see more as like an impenetrable sense of self. And not because nothing can't touch me. No, I'm a human. Sometimes things really fucking hurt. And especially lately. But because I know who I am, I can choose what is mine to hold on to and what is someone else's projection. What is someone else's, where they are feeling like they don't have the capacity to meet me where I am. It doesn't mean someone is better or worse. It just means you have different tastes. Was any of this easy? Fuck, to be honest, this is the hardest work I've ever done. I'd like to opt out by this point. I think I've put in the work, but I also would not trade it because I did not want a life that I had to be numb for. That's not why I'm here. And watching my mom pass early was kind of like this like very big catalyst that I didn't want to do life being miserable or being, I used to be a very negative person. And so I had to find workarounds for my brain, how to interrupt my patterns, because some of our best gifts come wrapped in pain. But most people will never open the box because it hurts. And I get that. I've been that. As you can see, I'm holding back tears now, and I am not a crier. But let me ask you something. Remember when you were little and maybe you swore there was something terrifying in your closet, like a monster or a movie soundtrack playing in your head kind of fear, like the kind of fear where you are so terrified yet you won't yell out for your parents if you have them because you're afraid that that will wake up the boogeyman. And you didn't go and check. You just sat under the covers frozen while this shadow grew into a full-on poltergeist that's now going to abduct you or something, all because you didn't want to look. Now, imagine, if you will, you cannonballed across that room, flung the door open, and turned the light on and realized it's just a hoodie and a floor lamp. Well, that's trauma. It feels impossible to face until you do. And then it becomes digestible. Not easy, but real. You extract the lesson, you process the emotions, you leave the baggage behind because you need to stop carrying your past like a heavy anchor. You're getting nowhere with that. That is just going to keep you stuck. And I don't share this to be like, oh, look at me, I'm healed. I've like overcome everything. If I'm being honest, my past trauma still makes me want to run often. Even recording this episode, even showing up on camera is something that I don't want to do because the fear of being seen feels illegal to me because of some of my past traumas. But I show up anyways because it's not about being perfect or powerful or putting on a front. It's about honesty. It's about replacing the old pattern I have with a new skill. It's about saying, hey, I get it. I have been there too. And maybe making someone else's load feel just a little bit lighter in the process because we're normalizing that it's okay to be a human and do life and make mistakes and have hard times. I mean, it's not rocket science. This is just what happens. So yes, that's me in as much of a nutshell as I can give you right now. And that's why I talk about the hard stuff too. The ADHD, the sex, the trauma, the nervous system, the patterns, because I have lived it and I'm still living it. And if your nervous system ever made you feel like a failure, welcome to the club. And you're not a failure. You're just a normal human. So thanks for being here with me today. If this resonated with you, feel free to share it, message me, or just sit with it a bit. But just know you are not broken. You're just ready to stop running. And so thanks for being here with me today. And I will see you on the next one.